Welcome to a new episode of Farm Like a Hero, folks. I'm Richard Perkins. Today I'm here with Jorgen Andersson, who runs Fjällbätter in Åre in Sweden, and is also the founder of the Nordic Savory Hub. And we posted a video with Jorgen on YouTube back in July 2019, where he presented a distillation of some of his wise thoughts and perspectives, which you may like to check out if you haven't already. And they're grazing sheep in the mountain pastures, and Jorgen's really run an innovative pilot project where local businesses and private customers have invested into the company, creating a direct link between the producer and the consumers. So in today's episode, we'll be talking about farming, but also holistic management and a sort of more global perspective as well. So I'm really excited for today's episode. Jorgen, thanks so much for taking the time out to join us today.
Yeah, thanks. This will be great.
So maybe we can start back right into your past. Like, what was your journey into farming, and how did you end up where you are today?
Okay, so I grew up in the south of Sweden, or same on the Stockholm level of Sweden, in a very conventional farming culture. So I'm very much from this farming culture back generations and all that. On a farm there where the dairy cows went away in the late 60s, so I could experience how those clay soils really got harder and harder to work with the tractors as the cows had been removed. It was sort of puzzling at the time, but I could never connect why that was happening. Then later in life, I took this leap and moved to Jämtland, to what is considered the north of Sweden, which is actually the center of it. So I live in Åre. Yeah, it's halfway up. So I've been living for more than half of my life now in this place, in Jämtland, which is a very different culture in many ways. Farm-wise and entrepreneur, the way people look at entrepreneurial things is different. It's a different culture here. So it's been a lot of dynamics, and Åre Valley has been a super dynamic place where the most wealthy elite of Stockholm has been playing around for 100 years, and where the local farming has been really, the toughest conditions for farming anywhere. But there has been this dynamic between the meeting between these wealthy people and their ideas and the local countryside of this area. So that kind of dynamic is still here, and I really got sort of amazed by that as I moved here. I didn't know about that before I came here.
Just for reference, for international listeners, Åre is a famous ski resort, isn't it? So that's what's drawing people up for the holidays.
Exactly. So it's been a big thing in skiing. But if 100 years ago, it was more like people want to be healthy and breathe fresh air and look for flowers, and so it has been different things. But since the 50s, the skiing has been a big thing, a big attraction to come here. So it has got a long history, and it also has a history of what do you call that in English, separatist. So the people of this area, they think they have their own republic and not really a part of Sweden. And that has got something to do with this local economy mentality, which is important as well. So I find this place interesting place to be, where the future might not be what the past have been, where we're going into something hopefully more sustainable, different.
So was there any key, I mean, you really, as a very humble man, I think it's something you've talked about in the YouTube video that we put out before, but for folks that haven't seen that, like, were there any critical insights or moments in your journey from sort of conventional farming to regenerative ag? Like, were there any sort of light bulb moments, or was it a progression over time?
Well, I mean, I feel I've been very privileged in many ways. I got to work I was employed by the Swedish Federation of Farmers in this county of Jämtland in this project in the 90s. So I had the privilege of dig in deeper into what is this about sustainable development, and how can the farming community benefit from people becoming more interested in environmental topics, and later on came the climate things. But so trying to figure that out, and trying to figure out what is likely to happen when we are hitting the limits of physical resources as a civilization, etc. And then very painfully becoming aware of that what I've been taking a lot of pride in being a good farmer, being able to sort of produce all that good food and all those things, and then suddenly coming to realization that what I've been doing is to prevent photosynthesis, prevent diversity, prevent actual production on the land, producing the kind of food that people don't really need, creating unhealthy food, and just feeding an industry instead. Those kind of very painful realizations. So that has been, I don't know if you call them a light bulb moment, but it's more like a slow, painful process of daring to say that what I have been good at is to prevent nature, prevent nature to do what, if I would allow nature to do what it wants to do, it would be better. But I'm using all my diesel and all my power to prevent it. So that's painful. Yeah.
That do you agree with that idea of like pride and arrogance is quite strong in farming families of we do it like this because grandfather did it like this? Seems to me to be one of the toughest nuts to crack, as it were.
Yeah, and looking at it from the perspective of the farming community in Sweden, in particular in Sweden, I mean, we have been saying that every 10th year, half of us are gone. And it's been like that for a long time. So just in order to try to stay on, it's like we are not wanted, so it has really been several generations of an environment that is really feeding bitterness. So it's easy to become a grumpy old man in this business that is sort of fighting the world, or feeling that the world are against you in every way, whatever happens. So that is that kind of general bitterness. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So sure. Victimization. Yeah. Being victims, but it is a bad path to choose to be a victim. But even though you have all the reasons, it doesn't make it a better path. It just makes you a grumpy old man or yeah. So yes, that has been very much been the case in the community where I come from. So then finding this whole new world of what we now call regenerative agriculture and holistic management is such a breath of fresh air, and the big thing is that it is providing hope for everyone, hope for the future generation of farmers and for the people and for everybody. Yeah. But even that will become may seem provocative for the existing community, for the remaining community of farmers.
Yes, I mean it's threatening the sort of ingrained habits and conditioning. You talked about the pain of your realizations, and that's why everyone would avoid it, I guess, is confronting their own mistakes. And
yeah, it is. I guess it's very natural. Of course, it is. And to whatever you learned seems to so painfully often it seems to be like 180 degrees wrong. What you've been doing, you're not even close. Yeah, it's like nothing that you thought of your knowledge that was of value, you thought were valuable, proves to be more like the opposite. So it is it's a natural thing that it has to be painful, and it should be. Let's respect each other for having such a journey.
Yeah, it's interesting. Something that's been on my mind a lot is this deeper psychology behind these processes and change across the board, not just in farming, but that's definitely a topic that's been increasingly important to me. But that leads me to thinking the way you described Jämtland is, it seems like they have a sort of somewhat of a fierce independence and the solidarity there. Is that the feeling you had when you arrived there?
Yeah, definitely. So there is definitely such a history of it. So there are historical reasons. I mean, this was an area, if you go between the period of 1750 and 1850, the public or the farming community would be better off here than anywhere else in Europe when it comes to capacity of to be able to read and write, whatever you call that in English, being child newborns surviving, or any kind of those measurements of people doing well. So they were doing better here than anywhere else, and that was due to a capacity or some luck and some capacity to hold on to the local economies and to have this ruminant-based economy going in a way that was doing really good for this area.
Yeah.
So that is a memory that people were doing well here, and that's still remains as some kind of a pride in people, right. And that comes together with a really tough. I mean, this dairy-based agriculture community or culture went through hard times in the 50s and 60s and 70s.